Hi, I'm Lizzie Slater. I'm the Dean of the School for Applied Information Technology at the Foreign Service Institute. I've been working for the Department of State for almost 40 years now, but as an IMS since 1998. I've done several assignments as an IMS around the world. I have lived in 10 different countries. I started as an IMS in 1998 in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Then I moved to Nairobi, Kenya, Port Louis, Mauritius, went to Washington, D.C. for a year. I have been in Bangkok, Thailand, Kabul, Afghanistan, Baghdad, Iraq, Jakarta, Indonesia, Cairo, Egypt, and now I'm here at the Foreign Service Institute. So how the Department of State works on assignments. When you very first join, there's two assignments that you are what we call directed assignments. So there is a list and you have a choice, but everybody in that particular class will be assigned to one of those countries. And then the second assignment is pretty much the same. You'll get a list of posts that you'll have to go to one of those, and those two are the directed. After that, then you get a choice. You compete with the rest of the members in class, the same skill code and class as you are, and then you have to lobby and see which job that you will fit in or wish to have the most. It's a little bit more tricky than when you very first start, and you have to network a bit more and basically sell yourself. Make sure your resume is pretty good and that you work with the posts that you really want to work with to sell yourself to them so that they will pick you. Typically, our assignments are 3 years. There are some that are in harder, what we call hardship posts. They are either 1-year assignments or 2-year assignments, but there is always the option to extend. Our hard to fill assignments, they really like it when people are succeeding and doing very well in the assignment if they ask to extend. Typically they get the choice to do that and get accepted. I've done several posts where it was a 2-year assignment and I stayed an extra year. My last assignment in Cairo, I actually stayed 4 years. It was a 2-year assignment and I kept extending because I really liked it, and it was a very challenging job, and I had some great projects that we were working on, so I wanted to stay as long as I could. So yes, it's an option. Europe, not so much. There's a lot of demand for those jobs, so most people get to do their 3 years and then move on. The typical day in the life of an IMS. So our role is to manage the communications back to Washington primarily, and of course to other regional posts. So typically you'll come in, make sure that all the equipment's up. There is definitely a checklist that every IMS has in the morning. You'll make sure that your backups have done. You make sure that the ComSec, which is communication security apparatus, is up and fully functioning. You'll make sure that overseas, the front office is okay, everything's working smoothly there. But there's multiple different parts of the job. It's not just working in IT. We run the mailroom, we run radio programs, telephone programs, plus all the computer work. So typically an IMS will come in, make sure that the classified operations are all fully functional, and then go and check on the rest of things. Make sure that our radios are up and running, make sure that if there's satellite communications, that everything's good with that. They just do their rounds essentially. And also with the mail operations, we also do diplomatic pouch functions. So there may be some work that they have to do on that, but that's usually not every day. So that's typically it. They're pretty busy people. The first thing that everybody needs to remember that they're representing the United States of America. So they're a diplomat 24/7, and you need to act that way. So a lot of the opportunities that anybody in the Foreign Service will have is to learn a lot about the culture of where they've been assigned, be able to interact with the local population, have that wonderful experience of a different culture, different food, different activities. I try to immerse myself in whatever culture I'm in and get to enjoy the foreign, being in the Foreign Service, you get that foreign experience. And I think it is very enriching for you personally and for family members. So a very important part of being in the Foreign Service are our family members. We can't do our jobs without them and without them being happy. So making sure that they have the right kind of housing, the right kind of schooling, medical care, all of that is critical to have a successful employee in the Foreign Service. So we take a lot of good care of our employees in that sense. So we encourage family members to also participate in cultural activities, to immerse themselves in the local culture so that they can also get something out of it. And I've always found it very enriching. My son was always involved in local activities. You know, there's always a good international school, typically where we are, and gives him the opportunity to do whatever sport there is. And there's music, there's arts, there's all kinds of activities for the children as well. So I think that helps the employee knowing that their family's happy and healthy. Obviously, one of the things that most people know about me, I'm a survivor of the East Africa bombings. So my role there, it was actually my first IMS job, and I'd actually been in post for less than 48 hours. So after the bombing, of course, the embassy was destroyed. So it was my immediate responsibility, along with my colleague who actually I was replacing. We had to set up communications in an alternate location. So that, I think, was really my most significant role that I've played. But to go on to other assignments, as I went up, of course, I became the boss of the head of the IT department, and participating, just ensuring that we have that connectivity, making sure that we have mobility for our diplomats is really important in today's age. And not to forget the security, cybersecurity, information security, data integrity is really, really critical. So the roles, of course, I've been doing this a long time. You know, when I very first started at the State Department, we didn't even have computers. So my roles changed tremendously over the last 40 years. But it's become more and more critical today because there is so much data and data arrest and information that people are accumulating, and we have to figure out how to manage that and keep it secure. So I think that's really the most significant role that an IMS plays in an embassy. So the biggest thing is you're moving. That's what I actually love about that is I feel like every time I move, it's a different job. It's not a different job. It's the same job, just a different country. But you have a new, you know, you're constantly changing your boss, your supervisor, your senior leadership. It's a constant change. And I think that's refreshing in a way because you get different ideas, you learn a lot from different people. And having the different cultures to deal with, you know, part of it actually adds a little bit of stress. But I think it feels like every time you move to a different job. And I think that's the part that's really exciting about or different from somebody in the regular industry. You know, you're not staying in the same office, the same place, the same city with the same people for your whole career. You're moving, you're seeing completely different environments. And there's lots of different challenges as well. Let's take, for example, in my last assignment, Egypt, some of the technology there was, the actual networking technology was very challenging. So we had to come up with workarounds, or had to come up with different solutions to be able to provide the capabilities for our diplomats so that they could do their job. So everywhere you go, there is something different. There is some challenge. We may not be using satellite communications in one, but we are in another. So it's a completely different skill set that that person has to learn to go into that job. You know, they may find that they're doing a lot more networking and looking at what kind of circuits that needs to be procured for the embassy to ensure that we can do the functions. You know, especially when we move to cloud technology, suddenly we needed to find out more bandwidth to have the capacity to do the cloud architecture and stuff like that. So there's a constant change. And as we develop and as we change our solutions, you always have to come up with a better way of doing business. So I think that is more challenging, and I think that it gives our IMS the opportunity to do things that maybe if they were in a bigger organization that they wouldn't have that opportunity. But when they go to a smaller mission, let's say one of the smaller missions in Africa or something like that, they're going to find that they get challenged a lot more on a variety of things, and it's not stovepipe. They're not just sitting taking care of the computer servers or something like that. They get to do a wider scope of work than I think that they would do if they were sitting in one organization in the US, for example. I think that this is an incredible opportunity for a student to have that exposure to represent the United States of America, for starters, I think is a great honor. And I think you'll get the opportunity to work with some of the smartest people. Our Foreign Service officers, I think people don't realize how incredibly privileged we are to work with the caliber of people that we do. They're really educated. They're incredibly dedicated. All of the officers that I've worked with over my career have been some of the best, and they are representing the United States of America, and they're trying to move our policies forward. They're trying to get the best for America. They're trying to make sure that we are getting the best business opportunities. You know, it's a very wide scope that the Department of State does, and this gives our IMS people opportunities to do a lot of things that they would never have if they were not working in an embassy overseas. You know, you get exposed to a lot of the public affairs events, and they can do a lot of different things. They can work in the local cultural things, they can do volunteer work, they can do all kinds of things that I really don't think that they would get that opportunity if they were not in the Foreign Service. So I think the diversity of things that they could do is incredible. So I would really encourage people to take a look at this program, because I think that this is one of the greatest opportunities that we can give some of these young folks these days. It's really a wonderful job.